the whole idea of the Australian dream of like owning a house with a quarter-acre block is pretty unattainable for the majority of people or young people in Sydney now. You know, it really is just a total dream.
There's Fort Denison with Mosman, other suburbs in the background, and from there across to the bridge.
Most of the rest of the world, people don't think of living in apartments as a compromise. No one in New York's thinking like, oh, I wish I had a house. Whereas in Australia, apartments are almost classed as this thing that, well, you live in an apartment when you're young, then you get a house, then maybe when you're downsizing, you go back to an apartment. It's like almost this transient stage to shift that thought of, living in apartments as being just as good or not a compromise is something that we've been trying to do through our work and inspire people to sort of go, oh, actually, like that'd be really cool to live in an apartment like that. Maybe I don't need a house on a quarter-acre block. The Crescent Apartment has become a really great example of like rethinking, what a two-bedroom apartment actually should be or who it's for. It's a move away from just like a straight, efficient plan to going, well, this is an apartment for a couple that will sometimes have a guest or sometimes need a study space. How can we rework it so that it actually creates a really like great living area for them to spend their time and has everything that the old apartment had, but without losing, a whole room for the sake of just having a guest come every, few months. I think part of the problem in Australia is the designs are driven by developers and by planning policy, and we've ended up with apartments that aren't really designed for anybody other than couples. So I think we need to sort of shift the way we design apartments and designing them with more longevity in mind for, the people that want to live close to all the amenities that the city has. We're trying to show what's possible inside apartments and think of them as a clear slate, like nothing's off limits when we start looking at designs. The limitations are, to part our imagination, but there might be some plumbing limitations, or we can't move a toilet, but almost everything else is up for grabs. We really think of it as our projects as fresh sites and saying, okay, well, who's the client, what do they need, and trying to do it in a way that creates like a luxury, I guess, around it. And that doesn't need to be, super high and lush materials, but just, I guess, a desirable space to be in, a calm space to be in, and a space that you kind of want to spend your time in. When I first did my apartment, I had all these people say to me, that's great. Like you can live in a little apartment because, you've got bars and restaurants and cafes and, the city's and parks and the city's your backyard, like you don't really need a big space to live in because you can just spend all your time out and about. And I was like, well, that's kind of a cop-out for good design. You can say, oh, well, it's fine to have that because you've got all this other stuff and the amenity of the city. And I think that amenity of the city can support the project and is what makes, that location desirable maybe, but it's a cop-out to rely on that to make your project unique. And actually, like, if it's designed well, you should be able to do everything inside your apartment without needing the rest. It should stand alone as its own entity.